You joined us for Rain of Blood, and together we made it rain bigger and better than we could have ever imagined. So now, join us for a second blazing inferno of knowledge and exploration. You're listening to Rain of Fire, the scorching sequel event to Rain of Blood, where we're going to delve into the world of fire play education and safety as we prepare for the upcoming Rain of Fire event. Join your host, Miss Kitten, Radically Dark, and Ember Solaris as we ignite your curiosity and stoke the flames of passion with discussions, interviews, and authentic insights from around the globe. Together, we're three flames united in one mission to make quality kink education more accessible and open pathways to conversation and connection about edge play topics around the world. But before we dive into these sizzling topics, a content warning. Rain of Fire discusses mature themes, explicit content, and practices related to BDSM and fire play. So listener discretion is advised, and this is an adult-only podcast. Other topics may include mental health, trauma, consent, and more. So please be sure you're in a good spot to engage in these topics before continuing to listen. So grab your fire gear, stoke the flames of curiosity, and let's embark on this crackling journey together. Welcome to Rain of Fire.
Hey, amazing firebags, and welcome back to the Rain of Fire podcast. I'm your host, Miss Kitten, and I have an amazing East Coaster joining us today. I have Rara, and I'm really excited. I've been really looking forward to this chat, partly because I think her podcast was the first one I listened to on fire, and she completely sold me on the subject. I was absolutely smitten. So welcome, Rara, and thank you so much for joining me on this beautiful Sunday.
Oh, well, thank you for having me.
So super excited to interview you because you get to do this to everybody else and you're so good at it. So slightly nervous, not gonna lie. I am a bit of a fangirl. So
well, thank you.
This is a bit of a biggie for me. So before we get into fire, you have quite an extensive journey in kink, maybe, and I know that you love sharps. So really excited always to connect with sharps players. But maybe you can give our listeners just a little quickie on how you got into BDSM and how you found this wonderful world of kink and how you stopped being vanilla.
Oh, goodness. Yeah. I don't know so much that I stopped being vanilla or that I recognized I wasn't vanilla. I'd always been very open and honest and adventurous when it came to sex and kind of felt like the odd man out, that other people looked at me strangely that I was so open about all of it. And I have to admit, it was much later in life. I'm an old person into kink. I read 50 Shades of Grey and thought, wow, this is really hot. But yes, I knew it was fiction. I know no 28-year-old gorgeous billionaire who knows how to fly his own plane and his own helicopter showing up at my doorstep. So I took what I learned and I started to research and found out what the lifestyle really was. And then I started networking with other people who were into kink and asking them questions. And they told me about Fet Life. And I joined and sort of never looked back from there. I met the person who would become my dom literally the first day I joined Fet. And through him, I gained a whole bunch of friends so that even when he and I broke up, I already was well entrenched in my local community and raring to go. And I started out as a submissive because at that point in time in my life, that's what I needed. I was dealing with some health issues and going through a divorce. So once I kind of mentally and emotionally healed from all that and kind of went back to the in-charge person that I was used to being, I went and became a switch. And then lately I've kind of discovered, I call it, I'm in my villain era. And I have become a dominant, but one who still likes to bottom because I love bottoming.
I love that. I absolutely love that. So, there are a couple of things there that I wanted to touch on before you continue. The first is I would really like to have a whole record of all the people that joined kink because of 50 Shades. Because I think that seeing their development and hearing about their journey and hearing how they've grown and how they've changed after a piece of fiction spurred such an exciting process would be beautiful. And I think that 50 Shades has taken enough hammering because, there is no billionaire, although we all still dream about that, on bad days. So I'd really like to do that as a comparison and see where these guys started off and where these guys ended up now. And I related to a lot of what you said. I also joined as a submissive, although I don't think there's anything submissive about me left. So I love the villain era. I think that's beautiful. And I think you make a really stunning villain.
Well, thank you.
Yeah, and I think that's gorgeous. So I wish you the best of luck in your villain era. If you need a sidekick, I'm really good with a gun and I'm really good with sharp things. I'm always happy to be someone's
well,
sidekick.
I love it. That's been one of the hardest things for me is when I really found and discovered sharps and blood play. I was only one of two people in my group that was into it. And the other one was the person who got me into it. She was my sadist and she got me into all of that. And then she moved and it was just me alone. I went, all right, I want to play with blood, but who's going to play with me? And then I was very fortunate and I became friends with somebody who's become my masochist now. And she's totally into it. And I thought, yay, so it'll at least be the two of us. But then I started to find other people in my group who were interested. And I turned my basement into a dungeon and I host parties here. And I decided to have a blood play party where it was anybody who was interested. You didn't have to be into blood. You just had to understand there was going to be blood. So if you were uncomfortable seeing it, don't come to the party. And I thought I would get maybe 7 or 8 people. There was 20 of us. And I ended up doing 7 blood play scenes because I broke a lot of people's blood play cherry. And everybody had such an amazingly good time. They want to do it again. So I'm very excited to have more people in my circle that are into blood play because it's fun.
I have the same journey with sharps. I absolutely love sharps, but I was kind of an island in my community, a little sharp island that no one wanted to broach. And I sort of one by one captured all my friends and turned them into sharps players of note and gave them a healthy dose of bloodlust. And I still remember the first time somebody said to me, "Oh, when you take the needles out, are we going to play with blood?" And I said to them, "Absolutely not. This is not about the blood. It's about the design." And now it's hell yeah, give me that blood.
Yeah, I was the same way. It was when I would first started topping for needles, it was all about the art. I'm going to make pretty pictures with needles. And then then somebody one day asked me, could I do a sadistic needle scene with them? And I said, I've never done a sadistic needle scene. Let me look into it. And then we have here in the States, Dark Odyssey, Winter Fire. It's a huge kink convention, hotel takeover thing. And they had a sharps class taught by Beast and Echo. And I took it. And I walked out of that class going, I know how to do sadistic needles. I got this. And I haven't looked back since.
I absolutely love that. Super jealous about Dark Odyssey. I see everyone starting to talk about it, and it's coming up. It's coming up soon, isn't it? It's
the one on the West Coast, which is they have one on the West Coast and one on the East Coast. The one on the East Coast is in January.
Okay. We have none. We have none of that. I just want you to feel sympathetic for me. I need a bit of empathy. We don't have any of that. So we're super jealous. You guys have these amazing festivals though, and these hotel takeovers. They really look absolutely incredible. But I think the organization that goes into those things is a bit mind blowing. But we definitely watch from afar. And And one day,
Someday.
someday, it's on my bucket list. Okay, I can talk to you about. I think I have to have you back, so I can talk to you just about sharps. But I have to talk to you about fire today.
Okay.
Because your podcast is actually one of the first like authentic shares about fire that I had experienced. Fire in my community is a place that people gather and they toast marshmallows. And that's about it. We have in our own little community of players that I play with, we have developed our own fire whip. And it's, I'm terrified to mention on air exactly what goes into the fire whip because we can't get any of the Kevlar products that you guys get in the States, and we don't get the same fuels that you get. So ours has been about 2 years of trial and error, putting this whip together and developing it and setting it on fire without killing each other or all of those things. So when I listened to your chat about fire, it was really, I think 3 things struck me about the experience. One, how intimate it was listening to you describe your experiences. Number 2, the amount of safety that went into the situation. Like, I'm from Africa. Like, we don't have that much safety at a presidential inauguration. You guys are the bomb. You have it all set out. But it's such a great thing. When I look at, I think fire is starting to explain personal responsibility in kink to me a lot more. It's the first time I've really had to look at a kink in my own setting because there are no really any building safety regulations. There are no sort of strict rules in anything we do here. So it's really important that you bring those with you. So listening to you guys talk really brought home the personal responsibility that we all talk about in kink the whole time. And then just number 3, like how fucking fabulous some of the fire shit you guys do is, because I've never seen fleshing, I've never seen a wand, I've never seen any of that stuff. So maybe we can just start and you can just tell me your first experience with fire and how that was for you and how your journey with fire has grown a little bit.
Yeah, I have been very blessed. I am the first one to admit that I've been very, very lucky, and I keep making friends with the right people. And so I had become really close friends with someone who happened to be a dungeon monitor at one of our public dungeons. So he was going up to the dungeon every Friday and every Saturday, and I just tagged along. And I would then meet people. So I was going to the dungeon, like 8 times a month and just running into people. And one of the people I ran into and one of his friends did fire. And so that was my first experience getting to try it. And it was just, for us, it was just like a very simple thing. It was just, and I don't always know all the technical terms because I've only bottomed, never topped, but just with the cotton on the sticks and, very simple. And to me, it felt very much like a massage you get at a spa with like the hot rocks. So I never felt like I was burning. I never felt like there was an issue. And then we started to play some things. And so he had a can of mousse and he would put hair mousse, and he'd put the hair mousse on my back and then set that on fire. And there's some safety rules in regard to that, as far as it's got to be a very specific kind of mousse that has the alcohol in it. So we tried that. And I'm very much an exhibitionist. So if I can do something that's not only fun, but that makes other people in the dungeon go, ooh, ah, and stop and watch what we're doing, I'm there for that. I love the looks on people's faces when they see some of the stuff I'm doing, and like they kind of walk by and it catches them and they kind of do that double take with their head. Like, what the fuck is she doing?
She's on fire.
So, and then I just kept meeting more people who were into it, and I tried fire cupping, which is fun, but it didn't do as much for me as just regular fire play. And then I met somebody else whose whole world was fire. And so with him, I did stuff like, and maybe, I don't know if you could incorporate this, we did s'mores. So there would be a towel, there'd be a towel on my back, and then the fire would go like on top of that. And then people would come over with marshmallows on sticks and roast their marshmallows.
How fantastic is that? Like your very own snack bar.
Yeah, so
Like,
you could take all
amazing.
those. So you could take those people who to them fire is what you do s'mores with, and you could bring them into your world.
I don't know if I'd want to share the s'mores if I was the fire underneath. I would want people to feed me the s'mores, like if I was providing the heat for it. I think I'd be a bit jealous of them eating. That sounds fantastic. The fire, it's obviously a towel that's on fire on your back. That looks like absolutely incredible. I've seen some Eastern medicine examples of that. I haven't seen it in a kink setting, but I've seen some Eastern sort of medicine examples. Maybe I'm using the wrong terminology there. But it looks amazing, but it's quite super scary in my head. Like, doesn't that towel get hot?
Well, it does. And I've done it sometimes even without s'mores, where it's just the towel's just on fire. And the object is the top is standing there watching you, of course, making sure you're okay. And as soon as it gets too hot, you notify the top, and they have another wet towel that they put over it, and that immediately puts the fire out. Plus, the towel is cold and wet, so that takes the heat away. But that's where it comes. Relief. Yeah, that's where that whole personal responsibility is the bottom comes in, because if I'm not honest with them about when it gets too hot, that's when I could get in trouble and get hurt. And it wouldn't be the top's fault. It would be my fault, because they told me the amount of heat everybody takes is going to be different. So it's not like the top can look at you and go, okay, that's enough. Because maybe that's enough for one person, but not necessarily another person. So you have to speak up.
Yeah, I love that. You're not the first person to talk about a bottom using their voice in fire, and I think so. So just because I don't want to pick on bottoms, I think that tops also have to use their voices. So what I've learned from my brief encounter with setting up for fire, because we don't have a mentor, there's no way so we're just doing safety training as a team at the moment. We're not actually burning anything. We're just setting up, putting people in the right places and giving people their tasks. And just as a top, I've learned that I have to really use my voice. I have to really say, this is the role that you're going to fulfill for the day. You are the spotter. This is how you communicate with me. Let's practice that communication so that I know that you understand the task I've given you, that you accept the task that I've given you, and you're able to use it. Because there's no point that Karen in the corner screams fire, because we all know that there's fire. Karen needs to scream, Bianca's leg is on fire, so that we've identified where the fire is, and then we can do something about it. Otherwise, this is going to end super badly, and we don't have the mentor that we can follow. So we're really breaking it down into baby steps. But I think you're saying the same thing for the bottom here as well, is that the bottom has to be able to use their voice and has to make sure that their voice is heard maybe even before they start the scene. So that for me becomes a green flag in the negotiation process. Is the top listening to my voice? Is the top hearing what I'm saying? And maybe there's some ways that you can ensure that is happening before you even get into the situation of being on the table. Because I think without that voice, I think fire becomes super dangerous.
Yeah, I think it's important for both of them. I know as a top, I've used my voice by saying no. I'm not comfortable doing something. I've had bottoms request certain things that they wanted to do in a scene. And I said, I'm sorry, I'm not comfortable doing that. Either I don't think I have enough experience and skill to do that safely, or that's an advanced step. And I don't think you and I have that relationship yet, because I don't want to do something advanced with somebody the first time I play with them. I don't know their tells. As you said, I don't have necessarily the confidence yet that they would speak up and say something that would be important for me to hear. So that comes with trust. And so as a top, it's okay to say, no, I won't do something. The same way a bottom can say, no, I won't do something. It goes both ways.
I love that reminder that you've just given us, that it's okay for a top to say no. And I like the way you put that. Like sometimes we're just, our relationships just not at this cubic depth, or just not advanced enough to take on what you're suggesting. I mean, it's a great journey, but it's a journey. And we are only packing our bags at this point. So we haven't got on the bus yet. So we need to get on the bus before we take the big step. And I think that everybody has great fantasies and dreams, but the most important thing in kink for me is putting those together in small steps, so that you have a cubic depth of container that holds the relationship for the big stuff. Because that big stuff is only epic if you're both present, you're both aligned, and you both have the same intent while you're doing it. And that's super hard to do in the first time you meet somebody.
Yeah. I often tell my bottoms who, when it's our first time, I would rather you walk away from this scene going, damn, I want to do more. I could have done more. Let's do more next time, than walk away going, that was too much. I don't want to do that again. Right. It's the looking forward. I want you to walk away going, that was amazing. And I want to do this again. And I want to do more. That's my goal.
100%. And I think as people, like I think both as top, because I top and I bottom, I don't think I'm a dom or a sub anymore. I just think I love pain. So I think sadomasochist is probably my role. I love bottoming. I'm total exhibitionist. But the people that I pick to play with are the people that I want to do more with, and I want to see again, and I want to be involved with. And more than anything are the people that are hearing my voice. But I think because of my topping experience, it's sometimes easier for my voice to be heard when I bottom.
Yes.
So I think because I think it's a confidence thing, number one. Number two, I think because I have a knowledge of the skill that's involved with it, I feel confident going into the situation. And I think because of that knowledge, people sometimes give me space to be heard a little bit more. So how do bottoms get heard if they are just subs or just bottoms? How can they increase the size of their voice?
I think they first need to stop looking at tops and doms as gods.
Love that. Love that.
And one of my personal, I have an issue with the term topping from the bottom. I hate that term. I think it has done a terrible disservice to submissives and bottoms, because I have heard so many newbies say to me they're afraid to speak up because they don't want to be accused of topping from the bottom.
I'm going to butt in right there. And I want to say that I top from the bottom the entire time I'm at the bottom. I really do. And I find the people that are accepting of that, and I find the people that enjoy that, and the people that don't enjoy that, I don't play with anymore. Because if somebody's not listening, I really don't think that's cool. And also the right people who want the feedback grow from the feedback and get confident from the feedback. The people that don't want to hear the feedback are people I just wouldn't trust. They would be a red flag to me.
Yeah, I find, at least in my community and the people that I've talked to, a lot of the things that people consider topping from the bottom, I don't. I consider that a bottom speaking up and standing up for themselves. And if I'm telling you what I like and what I don't like, to me, that's setting my boundaries. That's helping make the scene better. It's not topping from the bottom. If I tell you for warm up, I need thuddy first, and then you can go thuddy, stingy, in whatever order you want. But if you start with sting first, the scene's just not going to last as long, and that won't be fun for anybody. That to me is not topping from the bottom. I'm just letting you know what the parameters are. If you want to start with sting first, I'm not telling you can't. I'm just telling you how my body reacts and what the outcome's going to be. Or it's people who, they'll say, if the bottom has said, can you hit me harder? Well, that's topping from the bottom. No, that's expressing what they want. Now, I, as the top, can say, okay, or I can say, no, I'm in charge. I'm not going to. Like, I have those options. But to me, there's nothing wrong with them saying, can you go harder? Because that's telling me what they like and what they want. And don't I want to give them what they want?
Yeah, and I think feedback. I think feedback is like critically important. Like it's really I'm quieter, and it's taken me about, because our shops community wasn't established, and we've grown the shops tops that we have now from complete blood adverse people to really going wild with shops. Like it took a long time for me to trust those humans as tops, because I trained them. They were my babies, and I brought them up. Yeah. And I'd like, so, in the beginning, I used to be really like, no, that was a bit shallow, lots of advice from the bottom. Now I can close my eyes and I can relax, but we have a 2-year relationship in how I'm receiving the needles underneath. And I have complete trust. That trust has taken me 2 years to establish between me and their players. So without being heard or being listened to in the beginning, I would never have got to the place now where I can lie down, close my eyes, and sort of be a canvas with no advice from the bottom. And I think that the trust is also built up from the fact that when I've said something, they've listened to me. So, in the beginning it was tiny little needles or small paddles or stuff like that. Now it's needle paddles and it's big stuff. And I have complete trust that I'm safe. I also know that if I need to speak up in the middle of a scene, something will stop, something will happen, something will change. And I think because I know that I have that ability, I'm so much more relaxed. So I find when I have a new bottom that they often communicate a lot more, and it is a little bit of nerves and it is a little bit of distrust in the situation and the kink and the experience. And I think we need to be willing to hear them out. And then also I find if somebody's really asking a lot of questions, that maybe we should break the steps down a little bit and more communication is needed beforehand. And that is my responsibility as a top. So when you say like it's wrong for people to top from the bottom and you don't agree with it, 100% agree with that. And even as a beginner top, when I came into the community, I'd look at the situation and go, I think it's because I haven't spent enough time negotiating, communicating, having these conversations with my bottom. I don't have enough information that my bottom feels that they need to keep telling me what to do when they're at the bottom. And that's my duty as a top. That's my role. I need to go back and have the conversations then I need the better communication.
Yeah, you brought up an excellent point about them asking a lot of questions when they're new to something. One of the things I do is at one of our events is I demo top for needles. So you sign up and I will do needles on you. And for a lot of them, it's their first time doing needles and they're scared. Like either they're doing this because a friend has dared them or because they just want to check it off their list or they've been curious. They're still scared. And so there's so many questions. And one of the things that I have to do is show them confidence, show them, well, they don't have to be scared of me. I know what I'm doing and you're safe in my hands. And so if they need to ask me 25 questions for our 15-minute scene, then I'm going to answer those because I want them to feel comfortable. And when, and I let them know how much I appreciate and I'm honored by their trust in me. And I just make them feel relaxed and more comfortable. There might be a lot of joking when we're doing this because I want them laughing and I want them relaxed. And the amount of them, I would say 95% of them are like, this was awesome. I'll do this again. Only 5% are like, okay, I did it. I'm checking it off my list. I don't ever have to do it again. But they didn't hate it. It just didn't do anything for them. So
a bit like the fire cupping. You've done it, you've checked it off the list, but it just wasn't for you. And that's also okay. And it's okay to find out that you have a limit and that it's not something you want to repeat. Those things are all okay. You're allowed to have those experiences too.
Right. And one of the things that I run into a lot, so I'm well known as a sadist, and I'll get people who will be like, well, I want to play with you, but I'm not really a masochist and I don't want a lot of pain. And my answer to them is, am I a sadist? Yes. Do I love causing pain? Yes. But I only love causing pain when you love receiving pain. I don't want to cause you pain just to cause you pain. If you don't want pain, then my giving you pain gives me no pleasure. Then I'm just an asshole. and I don't want to be an asshole. So I have no problem doing a scene that's more sensual and doesn't include pain. I have enough people who are very happy to let me beat the shit out of them and cause them great pain. I don't have to do it on somebody who doesn't want me to. So people don't have to be afraid to play with the sadist. It's okay. We know how to not hurt.
Yeah, I think I actually saw a convo last night about being a sadist and the impact that the role gives you. Like as soon as you pick the role, everybody seems terrified of you. And I think a lot of us, not all the sadists, because I'm not speaking for everyone, but I think a lot of us love pain as a topic, and love sharing that pain and have mastered giving that pain. And that's what makes my sadist tick. But it's absolutely, like you said, it's absolutely no fun if we have mastered the skill and we're now giving it to somebody who can't appreciate the skill. So we're not gonna hand that out like candy at a show. To people who are not asking for that. It's, that aligning of the intent behind it. Being able to give the pain is great, but giving it to the wrong person is like, I don't know, like it's the same as getting a present that you don't really want or giving a present to somebody who didn't really want that gift. So, like gifts are great, but they've got to go to people who are keen on receiving them.
Yeah. With my masochist, my regular bottom, part of what makes the scene fun is her reactions and how much she's loving what's happening. So I can keep giving more and more pain because she loves it and she's reacting to it and she's so happy and thankful for it. So that makes me feel good. But I can be just as happy doing a sensual scene on somebody who is afraid because they don't like pain. And at the end of it, they're like, oh my God, that was fantastic. I didn't think I could do that without pain, but we totally did it. I want to do that again. When can we do that again? Like, that's the highest compliment. If you had so much fun doing a scene with me, you want to do another one.
I love that. And that's a great reminder, I think, for all the listeners, is that kink can be calibrated. They are the extremes and those plays are amazing. And but it doesn't have to be an extreme ever. And those plays are also amazing. And you can calibrate something. I do quite a lot of ball busting. And I have a latex pony who is not into pain on any level. I once caught his penis in a zip tie. I wasn't meaning to inflict pain on him. This is the only time I've ever inflicted pain on him, and it was a complete accident. And I have never been forgiven for this. And this moment gets brought up at family dinners, and I know the zip tie look. I know it's coming. But so learning to start with ball busting, it's a technique, and you've got to practice. And it's you actually need a set of testicles to practice on, because it's really frustrating not having something to practice on. But even ball busting, even that as a kink, can be sensual. And I've got my little pony who doesn't like pain at all to love ball busting, and we've calibrated the kink so that he can enjoy it. I get to practice. He has found intense pleasure from it. And I'm not inflicting huge pain where his nuts are purple and he can't walk and he has to go to the doctor because he's got lumps. He's absolutely loving it. The squeals are happy squeals, happy pony squeals on the table. And it's something that we're both enjoying. So I think any kink can be calibrated. And I think what you're saying is a great reminder. And I think just because somebody has a title, like a sadist, doesn't necessarily mean that I'm going to pull my sadist out for everybody, or that I can't do something else. I think we all have a huge amount of roles, and it's important that the bottom gets to ask for what they want, and we align intent up front. So yeah, you said in the beginning that people think tops are gods, and I think often you need to take that fallacy away, and you've got to remember to ask for the intent that you want up front when you're bottoming, because I think 99% of us want to align with that, and we want your experience to be positive and happy, and we want you to come back because we love this kink, and that's all we want to share with you.
Yeah, I mean, so I also bottom for rope, And what I get from rope is very, very different than what I want from impact or sharps or fire, right? Those I want to hurt. But from rope, I don't necessarily want to hurt. So I started working with a new rope top, and we were talking, and he was asking me, well, do you want to do impact? Because I know you love impact. Do you want to do impact with the rope? And I had to speak up and advocate for myself and say, actually, no, I prefer not to do impact with my rope, because for me, impact is about pain and being hyper, and rope is about like meditative and just relaxing and being mellow. And so they're two different things. And so I keep them separate. And you know what his response was? Oh, okay, then we won't do that. Like, it was very simple. But if I hadn't spoken up, then maybe something would have been done that I didn't want. I mean, it's not that I have boundaries against it. I mean, I love impact. I just don't like the two together. And it was okay and for me to tell him that and say, I'm not going to do that.
Yeah, I have a great exercise that I do with when we do quite a lot of impact classes for like a 101. Like how do I spank my partner? And what I found is a great exercise is just hearing a no. Because I think that we live in a community where hearing a no, I mean, in my vanilla world, I don't like to hear a no. My boss doesn't like me to hear a no. My boss wants me to get all the yeses. So, you know, when hearing a no in my vanilla realm often means that I have failed and that I haven't achieved success. So I had to sort of train myself in kink to hear the no and know that it's not a bad thing. It has absolutely nothing to do with me. And it's actually providing me with a shit ton of information about the other person. And it's closing a door and meaning that I can now approach other sides of the situation and open other doors. So it's just refining the choices and helping me refine the intent. So I have a little exercise that I do. I make the partners sit opposite each other, and for 2 minutes, partner A gets to ask partner B a million questions, and partner B is only allowed to say no. And in those 2 minutes, you've now heard 60 no's. And after you've heard 60 no's from a person, they're not offensive anymore. It's not a bad thing to hear a no. I mean, you obviously, on top of it, you're reading body language. So like if I said to you, Rara, do you want $1 million? And you had to say no to me, your body language would be shouting, hell yes. So you're starting to read body language at the same time. And it's a safe space. So you can throw out all these ideas, all these dark fantasies that you want. The partner can only say no. So you're expecting the no. There's no consequences from the situation. And then you swap it around. But in doing that, you've heard your partner say no. You've been able to read their body language. You've been able to see what they're telling you. But and you're not afraid to say no or hear a no. And then in play. And I think that's so important, because I think in normal vanilla world, like hearing a no is tough. Like you don't want to hear a no.
Yeah.
So you need to take the edge off the no a little bit and make it and I'm not giving you $1 million, Rara. I don't have $1 million.
That's a bum.
My exchange rate, I'd be selling both kidneys and my partner to a trafficking ring and I still wouldn't make $1 million. But yeah, so it just provides a safe, open space for these bottoms to be able to have their voice heard a little bit more. And I think that's super important. What is quite exciting with the exercise is I did it with a couple that I've been involved in kink with for a long time. And he was able to then throw out all his fantasies, and he felt super safe in doing it because his wife could only say no. So he got to offer her all these fantasies. And then they went home, and on the drive home, she said to him, that fantasy that you were talking about, is that something that you would ever really consider doing? Because it was quite hot. And then they tried it, and it was really hot. And he was absolutely thrilled. And he was like,
I love it.
Your little exercise, I got lucky and I wore high heels and it was fantastic. And I was like, yay for you. That's so cool. It's so nice to hear that people can connect over stuff like that. But yeah, so I think, but it also goes back to what you said right in the beginning, like baby steps are sometimes super important in kink. Like rushing it, there's no prize. So rushing it is setting yourself up for failure. And I think if you're going to set yourself up for success, that communication and that relationship and developing that is super important.
I love that you talk about the body language too, because I think as a top, that is super important because sometimes your bottom will say yes, even though they don't really mean it, because they're afraid to disappoint you, or they're afraid that if they say no, you won't play with them. And so I have had bottoms tell me yes to something, and I could just tell they don't really mean that yes. And so when they say yes, I'll go, oh, that's good. I'll file that way for another time and not actually do it because there's the term enthusiastic consent, which again, I could get on a soapbox about that. I don't like the term enthusiastic consent because as I tell people, if you're coming to hit me with a paddle full of spiked needles, while my consent will be sincere, I can assure you there's going to be nothing enthusiastic about that consent, but I'm sincere about it. So I don't necessarily use, but I want to know that it's sincere. I want to believe them when they tell me yes. And sometimes I'm just like, I don't think you really mean that yes you just gave me. So we'll just table that for another time.
I love that. And I 100% I'm getting on your soapbox with the enthusiastic consent. I'm like right beside you. I told you I'd make a fabulous sidekick. I don't like it because I'm autistic. So I have that resting bitch face 99% of my life. And even when I say yes, I sometimes look like my entire body is shouting no. And so it's got to be embodied consent for me. My body's got to be saying yes, even and following my brain, which for me it's a time frame thing. So even if you had to pop into my room now and say to me, do you want to go for dinner? Although I would be saying yes, my body would be screaming no because I hadn't aligned internally. If you wanted to take me for dinner at 6, you'd have to send me a message at 2 and tell me this was going to happen and give me time to accept everything, work my mind around it, and then say to me, let me know by 4. And at 4, you'd get an embodied yes out of me. There we go.
So and it's just different people have different ways of negotiating that stuff. But the enthusiastic consent I don't love, and I'll tell you the needle top. Your skin tells me that you want me to pierce you or not. And if you're really saying no, your skin is not fun to pierce. It's not elastic and soft and buttery, and I can feel that through your body when I'm throwing needles into you. So and it's not fun for me then either, because I know although you're saying yes, you're not meaning it. It sounds super weird that you can feel it, but I think when you've accepted it and it's something that you really want to do, your body responds differently. Yeah, it's so important because, I'll get people who will want to play with me because they'll be like, ooh, I want to play with Princess Rara. And I'm like, but you don't really want to do that. Like that, you don't want to really do needles. I can tell. I have never once pressured somebody into doing a needle scene unless I felt that they really needed that push. And that was just like the last thing. But if I've had somebody come up to me once, it was a dom and a sub, and they're like, the sub is here to get the needles done. And I said, okay, well, first of all, I'm only going to negotiate with the sub. I don't care what your protocol is. I don't care what your dynamic is. The sub is the one I'm putting the needles in. The sub is my bottom. That's the person I'm negotiating with. So I need to hear any yes from them. I mean, I need to hear all of this. I don't want this to be, they're just doing this because their dom told them to. Because that, I have no place in their dynamic. And so I don't have to do something because the dom said so. So yeah, I won't push you if you don't want to do something.
Yeah, I had I'm glad you brought that up because I had a mistress ask me to do something and not allow me to negotiate with the subs, and it was something I actually deeply regretted doing because I didn't have a connection and wasn't 100% sure, and I got halfway through and I called it because I just didn't feel like it was the right thing for me to be doing. So I'm glad you said that, because I think sometimes even tops need to be reminded that we have a voice. And we get to use that voice. And I think it's really important that the top aligns with the person that they are touching. And I don't think you can have a middleman for that.
No. I mean, I say that as the Dom, if they want to sit there and be a part of the conversation, they absolutely can, but they cannot answer for the submissive. And I need to hear it from the submissive. And I very rarely get any pushback from that. Maybe once in a blue moon, it'll be an issue. And then I'll say, then we're not doing the scene. If I can't talk directly with the submissive, I will not be a part of your scene. I think people need to remember your DS dynamic is yours. It's I don't have to follow it. I'm not part of it.
Yeah, and I also think that that people need to remember that the DS dynamic, as amazing as it is for the two people involved, it's not a legally recognized agreement for anybody else. Mm-hmm. And you still need to show up as an ethical player. And I think what enables us to be great sadists is the fact that we have an ethical line that we are trying to keep focus on and not cross. And I think that's important too. So I love your boundary, and definitely made a note that it's something I can work on from my side a little bit as well.
Yeah. I mean, luckily it doesn't happen very often for me. I would say the most everybody that I work with, either they're, just bottoms or they might be submissive, but their Dom is off doing their own thing or not there that night. So I don't think people understand, at least I know in my community, what percentage is DS versus what percentage are just tops and bottoms. Like way more people are just tops and bottoms than Doms and subs.
It's interesting because I think there's a pressure when you come into the community to pick one of those roles, like to pick a Dom or a sub role. And I actually think like just the role, like I picked mistress when I first joined. And I think just that role comes with 5 years of education and understanding, and it's not something that you can jump into. And I think any DS dynamic is a huge amount of work and understanding of what role you want to be in, and then communicating that role to whatever partner you're playing with. There's a huge amount of work involved with it. I think it's the work side of it that scares the hell out of me. So I'm not super keen on that. So I say my advice is always when people come into the community is it's okay just to be a bottom. I don't think you have to be submissive in it. And it's I would recommend that if you're playing with any top or any Dom in the beginning, that you play as a bottom, not as a sub, until you understand the play and the play makes sense to you and you can fully consent to everything that's happening with from the skill side of the play. And then once you've got that all mastered, then you can add the icing on and add the submissiveness and the other stuff to it. But in the beginning, like take it easy and just divide the kink down into bite-sized pieces without the dynamic, because I think maintaining your voice and playing a submissive role takes a little bit of skill. It takes a bit of understanding, and it takes a bit of negotiation with yourself as well to know that this is your boundary and this is what you can cross, this is what you can't cross, and this is when you need to speak up. So I in my own community see a lot of issues coming in when somebody automatically assumes a submissive role and then plays that role for every top. And I think that's often when the bottoms in my community don't get heard. Because
for me, it's the ones that I run into in my community. It's I'm not going to say whether they are submissive or bottom, whatever, but they identify as submissive, and the amount of times that they give away their voice because, well, their Dom will take care of it, or their Dom knows what to do, especially if they're newer and their Dom is more experienced. Well, they're the Dom, they'll take care of it. They're the Dom, they'll do this. And I'm like, just because you're submissive doesn't mean you don't still have a voice and shouldn't still speak up. Because ultimately, no matter how much your dominant might care for you and love you, nobody is going to take better care of you than you. Nobody knows you better than you. So you need to speak up. And you need to take care of yourself and protect yourself. And so it's like one of my goals for 2024 is the word of the year is empower. And I want bottoms and submissives to feel empowered. I don't think it detracts from your submissiveness to be empowered.
Absolutely love that. And my word for 2024 is self-care. And I really, in my soapbox turn, I really want everybody who is playing in kink to see this as something that empowers your life. And in order for it to empower your life, you need to show up with your self-care. So you need to show up with the information about yourself that you can share with the person playing, because that gives you a much better capacity for a much better play. And then B, on the other hand, helps you negotiate the other side of the play, which is the aftercare and the working through whatever traumas happened to your body or happened to your mind during the play, and gives you the tools to give to your partner to help them with your aftercare, so that self-care becomes part of the whole journey for both the tops and the bottoms, because I think kink is about capacity. For me, the more I play, the more I realize that when I show up with good capacity because my self-care is in place, and the more I bring my self-care to the table, I can negotiate aftercare, I can negotiate what is good for me, what works for me, what I need out of the situation, and I understand myself. And that's what kink has shown me in the last year anyway.
I absolutely agree, 1000%. I teach a class called Mastering Bottoming. And one of the things that I harp on is learning about yourself, which includes then asking any person that you play with, how did I react when you did this? Did you notice anything? Like, I can tell my tops. If I'm on the spanking bench, watch my toes. My toes will curl when I'm processing pain. So I wouldn't have known that, except another top pointed that out to me. So I'm able to share that. If I'm standing on the cross or in another capacity, I'm like, I'm going to stop my foot and shake my body while I process the pain, and then I'll get right back into place. So if you let me have that moment to process that pain, that's also how I learned about the warm-up, what works for me from a warm-up standpoint. All that information is like a user's manual for how to play with me. And sharing that information, again, is not topping from the bottom. It's giving the top the user's manual.
I think that I love the way you put it in, it's a user's manual. I think that's absolutely fantastic. And for me to have a bottom who comes to me, and I'm quite privileged in the sense that I often do have bottoms who come to me who are experienced, because I'm niche in my market. So and the guys that come to me who understand themselves, who can explain to me their silences or their giggles or whatever I'm meant to be expecting from them, the play is just so much more fun because I'm not guessing. And I don't want to, the older I get, the less I want to guess. And then so I'm going to ask for a user's manual. I like that. You've left that. That's definitely going to carry. Left your little legacy here in Africa. Well done.
Well, there we go. Thank you.
But that user manual is so helpful, and it extends past it. Like, what do you need after the play? What works for you? And for me, if you're not looking after yourself and you don't know what works for you, you've got nothing to add, and then you're left guessing after the play. And I think often that aftercare can make an average play great, or it can make an average play terrible, depending on how it's received. And the more information you can give your top for that side of the play, the more equipped everybody is, because life's stressful and we don't have capacity to guess on a Monday morning. So having the tools to play to put in the right places is really helpful.
Agree.
Yeah, Rara, I've had such a nice time chatting to you. I want to have you back so I can just talk about blood and needles.
I would love that. I have great stories for all my blood play.
Dying to have you back for blood and needles. Thank you for
anytime
for talking to me about bottoms and fire. And we are looking forward to Rain of Fire. I'm just going to do a quick punt. If you don't have your tickets, what are you doing with your life, people? Get a ticket. We have the best presenters. We have some amazing educators. We have some incredible demo classes, just some mind-blowing stuff. We also have a scholarship program. If you need help, please reach out. We are here to help you. We believe that education is for everybody and that you should be able to get it regardless of where you live or what you earn or who you are. So please reach out to send us a DM and we'll hook you up. We're starting to count down the days. We've finally gone into June, so we're getting a little bit closer. And we hope to bring you some more presenters, some more fire lovers, and some more educators on our podcast. Keep listening. Have a listen to Rara's podcast. Is amazing. I've learned so much from those amazing humans. So please give them a listen. I will drop their links in the show notes as well so that you guys can pick up and hear more from these incredible humans. Yeah, and Rara, thank you for spending your time with me on a Sunday. And that's all love from me in Cape Town.